Okay. Hi, everybody. Thank you, Nikki, for talking about self-care with us. It is really important all throughout the year, but especially, heading into the holiday season. So my name is Becca, and I am one of the grief counselors here with Angela Hospice. I've been here for 7 years, but only joined this team about a year ago. So I'm really happy to be here and excited to talk to you all today about some tips we put together just with the holidays in mind, some ideas to help kind of get through this holiday season. If it's your first holiday season without your loved one, or if it's not your first season and you're still just, hoping for some ideas to help cope through some days that are tough. So number one, and very important one that we highlight here a lot, is everyone does grieve in their own unique way. There truly is no right or wrong way to grieve. It's personal to us. So that should be honored all times, but especially this holiday season. So please be careful with not comparing where you're at with your journey with grief to anybody else. And the things that you do to cope with this holiday season should be unique to you. Find the things that work for you. So maybe not everything on this list feels like a good fit for you. That's okay. We should honor that. Number two, we know that the holiday season in general can be a lot. It can be overwhelming and stressful, and there could be conflict that comes up, and that's without adding grief on top. So right off the rip, we wanted to mention, in a gentle way that it's likely that this holiday season with grief involved is going to be hard. But we can acknowledge that. We can talk like we're here today, talking about ideas to get through. We don't have to pretend that the holidays are bright and bubbly if we're not feeling that way. So, however you're feeling with your grief, please allow that to be a part of your holiday season. Don't feel like you have to pretend if that doesn't feel authentic to you. Tip number three, spend some time considering what you want to do or even how you want to feel on the holiday itself. And really start considering those things early ahead of time. Um, Typically, it can get kind of messy if we wait until the day of to decide what we might want to do. So now is a perfect time to start thinking. We've got Thanksgiving coming up first here. So really thinking about, what do I want to do that day? Do I want to be with people? Do I maybe want to take this year off from Thanksgiving and stay home and cozy? That's part of, how I want to feel on that day too. So later in our workshop today, Debbie's going to be talking us through creating a holiday plan. So that might be helpful too in considering, ahead of time some ideas of what you might want to do. Tip number four, find a way to honor or include your loved one who's died throughout the holiday season. This list on the screen is not all encompassing. There are so many ways that we can have them be a part of our holidays. It can be very kind of serious and kind of a formal memorial, but don't be afraid to let humor work its way into. I had an uncle who loved wearing Hawaiian shirts. So one year, the family, the first Christmas without him, we all wore really ugly Hawaiian shirts. And it was really funny, and it felt like we were kind of honoring our Uncle Bob. So you can leave room for humor too on how you include them. But some ideas, it could be big or small, but something small you can do every day is light a candle in their memory. Maybe buying or decorating a special ornament that reminds you of them. When you get together for your holidays, you can set a place for them at the table. Maybe incorporate their favorite meal or favorite dessert. You could make a donation in their honor. You could take an opportunity to look at old videos or photos. There really are so many ways that we can do this. So we just encourage you to consider what feels good for you, how you might want to include your person in the day. And tip number 5, know your warning signs and take breaks. This is really important. Um, Again, knowing that the holidays in general are stressful, but specifically when we are grieving, knowing your warning signs is really kind of talking you through paying attention to when you might be getting overwhelmed, if your grief is kind of becoming too much, having an eye, keeping an eye out for yourself, noticing any changes to your breathing, if your muscles start feeling tight or if your jaw is clenching. All of those could be warning signs that you might need to take a break away, whether it's going to step outside for a moment or going into another room. Maybe those warning signs are a great kind of trigger for you to know, okay, I need to reach out to someone. Who's my safe person here where I can say, I'm really overwhelmed or I'm not feeling so great. Can I talk to you? So sometimes it's not, we can't always prevent those things from happening. I don't recommend trying to prevent a trigger coming up or grief kind of coming up to the surface. Those things are normal. So we're not trying to prevent them, but we are thinking ahead of time how we can cope with them if that comes up. So tip number 6, setting realistic expectations for yourself. Um, I think again with the holidays, we typically have traditions that get put in place. Sometimes for decades, we do the same thing every Thanksgiving or the same thing every Christmas. And when someone we love dies, there could be a lot of pressure to continue with those traditions. But we may not have the energy, the mental capacity, the desire to do those things. And it might not be realistic to expect yourself to be able to accomplish all that you used to do in years prior. So, really looking at setting realistic expectations for yourself. If you need to hear it here. You have permission to take this year off from the holidays. You also have permission to gather and celebrate and have fun. Um, whatever feels authentic and right for you, do that and try to be gentle with yourself. And again, making those expectations manageable for you. Number 7, Nikki talked a lot about this, but it's here again. It's very important. Prioritizing self care during the holiday season. So, ahead of time, considering what self care could look like for all the domains Nikki talked about, your body, your heart, your mind, your spirit, having a plan ahead of time of what things might help kind of cope or help you cope with the holiday season, but also winter in general, which can be kind of cold and dreary. So, um, also in this section, I think it's self care to think about having an exit strategy. So, if you are going out to a holiday party or a gathering, thinking ahead of time about what your endpoint will be. Maybe that means I'm going to go for dinner, but I'm going to leave before dessert, or I'm going to go for an hour and then I'm going to go home. Kind of knowing ahead of time what that endpoint feels like for you, or what you want it to feel like. That kind of ties into number 8, which is setting, expressing, and maintaining your boundaries. This is really important, especially for people within a family unit to hear. You and your family may be grieving for the same person, but the boundaries that you have, the way that you express your grief, the things that are comfortable for you, can and should look different from person to person. We don't have to look for consensus here. We don't have to all be on the same page with our boundaries or what we want to do this year. Um, so, consensus may not be possible, but what we really want to aim for is respect. Um, Maybe for me, it would be really nice to bake mom's apple pie for Thanksgiving. I want to feel close to her. But for my brother, maybe that's triggering for his grief and it just doesn't feel right. So looking at how can we make a compromise here where both of our needs can be known and respected. Again, tying back to, um, you know, everybody grieves in different ways, and that's okay. Number 9, surrounding yourself with people who support you. Um, I can't say it enough. In grief, we need support, we need community, we need to be heard and cared for. Um, and if that doesn't come from your family members, unfortunately, it doesn't. But if that's the case, really looking for what support can look like for you. And that includes, our support groups and counseling sessions here, but really looking at, how can you support yourself through a season of life that's probably going to be, quite difficult. Number 10, and this ties into the last tip too, if you need help, ask for it. Don't expect people to be able to read your mind and know what you need help with. Look for the people in your life who are really good at listening. Those can be people that you can turn to for emotional support, but also look for the people in your life who are the doers. Sometimes it's not the same person. Sometimes I could be really good at listening, but I'm useless with baking or household tasks. So looking at your circle in your life, who are the listeners? Who are the people that can help with tangible tasks? Again, don't assume that anyone knows what you're thinking or feeling or what your needs are. Even if it feels really kind of obvious to you, we can get into trouble when we assume everybody knows what we need. So, as best as we can, think about what those needs are and ask for help. Number 11, if you are attending a holiday gathering or event that you're kind of dreading and don't want to go to, but for whatever reason you're deciding to still go, an idea to help kind of get through that is to bring an object that helps ground yourself. So this tip comes from Megan Devine, who is an author, a therapist, and talks a lot about grief. And so Megan talks about bringing an object that helps remind you of your life outside of whatever event it is that you're going to. And ideally, this should be something kind of small that maybe you can hold in your pocket, or maybe a necklace with a pendant that, for me, this signifies something very special, but it might not outwardly look that way. So this grounding object can be something that I hold on to, and that reminder that this event will end. This is not forever. I can leave this place. I can go back to a place of solitude or comfort if I'm overstimulated. So thinking about, what a grounding object could be for you. And then tip number 12, be gentle with yourself this holiday season. Um, we can't say it enough. The holidays are hard, and doing this without your person that you love so much makes it all the more difficult. So know that you have permission for this holiday season to be different. Know that if this holiday season is simply just for surviving, that's okay. And there can be hope for future holidays to enjoy them again. Thank you all so much for letting me share some tips to get through the holidays. I am going to pass it over to my colleague Amanda, and she'll be talking about helping kids with the holidays.